Welcome back to a special mobile edition of You Ask, We Answer. The first question today comes from Tim Hobbs, who asks, will Android, Google's mobile operating system, dethrone the iPhone, and when? Well, that depends on what kind of stat you're looking at. Are you looking at strict market share? Are you looking at share of the US market, worldwide, at apps, at just kind of subjective mind share? And the answer to each of those questions is different. Right now, obviously, Apple's market share is much bigger than Google's, and that's because it's available in more countries worldwide and kind of has I would say, a more known brand, and also is available on more carriers. Those things will change because Google Android is going to be built into phones from more manufacturers. It's going to be available in more countries and on more carriers. Pricing is also a big deal. So far, there's no Android phone that really competes with the $99 iPhone 3G, unless you're looking at kind of an older device. That's going to change as well. As slower messaging phones that are not quite smartphones become cheaper to produce, those will become Android phones, and soon Android will be available as a free option or as something that may cost $29 or something like that. So if you're looking at strictly the high-end stuff like the Nexus 1, that and the iPhone will probably, it's going to be a little while before Google catches up, but what could easily happen is if Google Android becomes something that Motorola and Samsung and LG build into their really cheap, kind of lower end messaging or feature phones, as the industry calls them, that's one place where Android could really kind of jump ahead of Apple, because smartphones are still, while they are a growing market, growing maybe 35 to 50% year over year, depending on where you're looking, the mobile market is still huge. Smartphones are a relatively small chunk of them, and these messaging phones sell a lot of units. If you're looking at something else like developer mindshare or apps that are being made, I think it's going to take longer before people catch up to Apple. I was at a mobile event last night where someone said, a developer said, the iPhone App Store is still the only way to make money selling apps. Google has an app store, of course. It has thousands of applications, but the commerce options just are not as good as Apple's. And until Google makes changes there, the iPhone App Store is still going to be the app store of choice for developers, both because of the commerce options and also just the install base with the iPhone and the iPod Touch being so large. So what can Google do to get better? A, it has to do better with the commerce options. Google absolutely must make it easier for people to buy apps, to buy virtual goods within apps. Google must make the application process easier for developers. They have an advantage that they don't need apps to be approved before they get into the store, but they have the disadvantage that the tools just aren't as good as Apple's are. And also, they need to do better with marketing. Right now, you cannot search on your desktop through the Android App Store. You could only do it on the phone. It's harder to take screenshots of apps unless you have the SDK install on your computer. There's a lot of stuff where Apple just has a more polished, complete experience, and that's where Android needs to improve. So the next question comes from App World. First question is stats on most downloaded free and paid iPhone apps. Not quite sure what this question means. Apple, of course, keeps an up-to-date listing of the most popular free apps, the most popular paid apps, and also the top grossing apps, where they measure units sold by the average price. If you're curious about how many apps per day are sold in the top few slots, my last understanding was in the US, it's for the free apps, I think it's around maybe 50,000 to 100,000 a day, and for paid it could be around 10,000 a day, but don't quote me on that. It's tricky because Apple will never tell you any of this stuff, and developers choose to report this stuff on a self-selecting basis. So, and I'm sure it depends on the day. Christmas Day obviously is a huge day for app sales. Some days are probably much slower. But it is possible, I think, within a week, if you're the top free app for the whole week, and you're in a lot of countries, you could probably get 1 million users that way. I think that's sort of how Tap Tap Revenge has so many users across the iPhone and iPod Touch. And Verizon claims that Droid users average same data usage as iPhone users. Can you confirm that, and what is the average? That question also from App World. That would make sense to me. That's just data that Verizon and AT&T probably aren't going to share with anyone. But it makes sense because if you think about the way the Droid and the iPhone are used, it's pretty similar. A lot of email, a lot of web, full browser, so you can download full pictures, some video. The iPhone and the Droid also have Wi-Fi connections, so a lot of people are offloading a lot of their data usage to Wi-Fi, which does not affect the cellular network. So I don't really know what the real data usage is, but I can tell you my personal data usage in the last year and a half or so on the iPhone, with a lot of Wi-Fi usage, so this is affected by that. I've downloaded 3.3 gigabytes and I've uploaded 383 megabytes. So that's really not that much data. You know, that's not even one DVD's worth of download, and it's not even, you know, it's not even 4 zip disks worth of uploading. So AT&T, you've made a pretty nice margin off of me.